The scent of the survivor. The jungle of Carvel breathed like a living thing. Vines coiled and uncoiled in the heat. Towering trunks wept sap that burned the air. Every shadow hid teeth, every sound promised death. This world was not merely hostile, it was instructional. The Dominion clans had chosen it generations ago as a proving ground, a place where only true predators learned to hunt. Tonight, the cubs were on their first live trial. They moved low and silent through the undergrowth, for young hunters no longer hatchlings, not yet warriors. Their hides shimmered faintly in the filtered green light, muscles tight with anticipation. Ahead of them, something crashed through the foliage, clumsy, wounded loud. Prey. The cubs fanned out instinctively, excitement rippling through their neural crests. The scent reached them moments later. Blood. Fresh. Hot. Human. They had been taught this scent in theory. Thin-skinned bipeds from a weak gravity world, soft, slow, dependent on machines. The Dominion called them negotiators, a species that survived by words and treaties, not teeth. Easy prey. The cubs accelerated. Lieutenant Mara Cade stumbled through the brush, vision swimming. Her left arm hung useless, the bone cracked in the crash. Blood soaked her side where jagged metal had torn through armor and flesh. The emergency beacon was dead. The rifle was gone. All she had left was a knife, a shattered wrist display, and a stubborn refusal to lie down and die. She forced air into her lungs and kept moving. The jungle wanted her dead. She could feel it, hear it, in the rustle of leaves that didn't match the wind, in the silence that followed her passage. Training told her she was being hunted. Training told her that meant she still had time. Mara tore a strip from her sleeve and cinched it tight around her ribs. Pain flared white-hot. She didn't scream. Screaming wasted oxygen. She pressed on, limping now, marking the ground with drops of her own blood. Behind her, the cub slowed. The scent was wrong. The lead cub lifted its head, tasting the air again. Yes, it was blood, but layered with something else. Adrenal compounds, stress hormones, pain markers far older than the wound itself. This was not the clean panic of prey. This blood spoke of familiarity. The cubs crept closer, expecting frantic flight. Instead, the human stopped. She turned. Mara faced the jungle, back straight despite the tremor in her legs. She scanned the shadows, eyes hard, calculating. Her hand tightened on the knife, not in desperation, but in readiness. She was not begging the world to spare her. She was daring it to come closer. The cubs froze. Instinct, older than thought, sent a shock through their nervous systems. This was not how prey behaved. Injured creatures fled, collapsed, surrendered. This one assessed. The smallest cub edged forward, curiosity overriding caution. Its claws brushed a leaf, barely a sound. The human's head snapped toward it instantly. Eyes locked. Something passed between them, an understanding that needed no shared language. The cub felt it then, a pressure in its chest, a warning encoded deep in its species' oldest survival memories. Not danger, dominance. The cub recoiled without realizing it had moved. The others noticed. They circled wider now, movements cautious. The jungle seemed to hold its breath. The human shifted her stance, favoring her good leg, placing her back against a thick-rooted tree without breaking eye contact. She was wounded. She was outnumbered. She was not afraid. The scent thickened as her blood hit the soil. The cubs inhaled again, and this time they understood. This blood did not mark weakness. It marked persistence. It carried the signature of a species that had bled on ice and fire, that had run prey to exhaustion, that had survived predators larger, faster, stronger than anything on Carvel. A species that had learned to win by refusing to stop. One cub's frill flattened in unconscious submission. Another lowered its head. The lead cub's mandibles trembled as a single word surfaced from ancestral warning songs, a word spoken only when the hunt must end. It whispered it, not aloud, but through the shared neural link of the pack. That's Alpha. Mara didn't know the word. She didn't need to. She felt the shift. The tension changed, like a storm breaking without rain. The shapes in the foliage pulled back. The presence that had pressed in on her senses receded. She exhaled slowly, never lowering the knife. Minutes passed. Then the jungle moved again, but away from her. Only when the sounds of retreat faded did Mara sink to one knee, breath shaking. She pressed her forehead to the bark of the tree, eyes closed, alive by the thinnest margin. Above them all, unseen, a Dominion observation drone hovered silently, its sensors recording everything: the blood, the stare, the retreat. And for the first time in recorded history, the Dominion's hunt had ended not in a kill, but in recognition. What Alpha means. The Cubs did not leave Carvel that night. They withdrew to the high canopy ridges where the predators of that world watched storms roll in and waited for danger to pass. There, half hidden among bioluminescent fronds, they remained still, alert, listening, remembering. Below them, the human lived. Mara Cade did not collapse when the jungle released her. She moved again after only a short rest, forcing her injured body into motion with a discipline the Cubs could not understand. Her breath rasped, her limp worsened, but her pace did not slow for long. She selected a hollow between root walls where the wind broke and the ground sloped for drainage. She worked with method, not haste. The Cubs watched. She snapped branches to form a crude frame. She used a shard of hull metal to scrape sap from a corrosive plant, careful to keep it from her skin. She packed soil over her blood trail, masking the scent not with clever chemistry, but with repetition and patience. Predators relied on speed, on the sudden strike. This creature relied on time. The smallest cub tilted its head as Mara snapped her broken arm into alignment. The sound echoed through the jungle, bone against bone. The cub flinched, expecting the scream that followed such pain. None came. Mara tied the arm tight with vine fiber and continued working, teeth clenched, eyes unfocused with concentration. Pain was not an emergency. It was an obstacle. The Cubs exchanged unease through their link. This was not strength as they understood it. Their people prized the decisive kill, the overwhelming charge, the triumph of superior force. But the word the lead Cub had spoken, Alpha, did not mean strongest. It meant last. Long before the Dominion, before empires and fleets, there had been worlds like Carvel everywhere. Worlds that killed carelessly and often. The Alpha was the creature that endured when the world tried to erase it. Not the fastest, not the deadliest, the one that adapted. The Cubs had sensed that truth in the blood. Now they saw in motion. Mara set traps, not complex, not elegant. A pit where roots hid the depth. A snare weighted with stone. She placed them slowly, testing each one, correcting angles with the patience of someone who had failed many times before and survived anyway. When night fell, she did not sleep. She sat with her back to the tree, knife across her knees, eyes half-lidded but alert. The Cubs realized she was resting parts of her mind at a time, not surrendering consciousness. Even injured, she denied the world a moment of carelessness. The jungle tested her. Something large moved in the dark, six-legged, venom-spined. It crept too close. Mara's knife flashed once, precise and brutal. She twisted, severed a joint, and retreated before the creature could recover. No roar of victory, no pursuit, only survival. The Cubs recoiled, not in fear, but in comprehension. This was why the blood smelled ancient. This human carried the inheritance of countless trials. Her kind had evolved not to dominate their world, but to outlast it. They had learned to wound and withdraw, to lose battles and win wars measured in years, measured in extinction events. As dawn broke, Mara rose and moved again. Her direction was not random. She followed high ground, tracked water sources, avoided the dens of apex fauna with an instinct sharpened by generations of similar threats, different forms, same rules. The Cubs followed at a distance now, no longer hunters. Students. When she finally noticed them again, it was deliberate. She stopped at the edge of a clearing and spoke aloud, voice hoarse but steady. "I know you're there." The Cubs stilled. No prey had ever spoken to them like that. Mara turned slowly, meeting the shadows with tired eyes. I don't want to fight you, she said. But I will. There was no challenge in her tone. No bluff. Only certainty. The lead cub felt the word rise again, heavy with meaning. Alpha. Not a title claimed. A condition proven. Above them, the Dominion drone adjusted its sensors, capturing every movement, every calculation. Data streamed toward distant command halls where strategists would misread it as anomaly, as luck, as statistical noise. They would not understand the warning forming in the cubs' minds. The human did not belong on the prey list. She belonged in the category the Dominion had long forgotten how to fear. As the cubs withdrew once more, one truth settled among them, undeniable and shared. If the Alpha survived this world, and it would, then the Dominion had already made a mistake. And mistakes, the cubs knew, were how apex species fell. The Empire's mistake. The Dominion did not listen to cubs. By the time the observation drone's data reached the command spires of Velcara Prime, it had been filtered, categorized, and stripped of instinct. Analysts saw a wounded human surviving longer than projected. An outlier. A statistical curiosity. Not a warning. The clans convened in holographic council, armored elders floating above a floor of living crystal. They reviewed Mara Cade's movements, her traps, her injuries, her refusals to die, and reached a consensus shaped by arrogance. If the human could survive the proving world, then she could be useful. Capture the Alpha, one elder decreed, misusing the word without understanding it. Study it. Learn why it persists. The hunt escalated. They sent adults. 6 veteran hunters descended onto Carvel in drop pods that split the canopy like falling stars. These were not cubs guided by instinct, but warriors trained for conquest, armored, armed, confident in centuries of unbroken dominance. The jungle welcomed them with silence. Mara heard the pods long before she saw them. Shock waves rattled leaves. Birds fled. The world announced new predators had arrived. She did not run. She moved sideways. Experience, not fear, guided her. More hunters meant fewer escape routes, heavier reliance on patterns. She doubled back through her own trail, then abandoned it entirely, crawling through water until the current stripped her scent away. Above her, the adults spread out, sensors sweeping. She bleeds, one hunter growled. She tires, another replied. Uneasy, the cubs did not engage. Cubs are weak, came the answer. We are not. The first trap took the lead hunter's leg. It wasn't deep. It didn't kill. It slowed him. The second hunter rushed forward, and the pit opened beneath him, roots collapsing into darkness. He survived the fall. The sharpened stakes did not. The jungle screamed. The hunters reacted with force, burning foliage, firing indiscriminately. They expected panic. They expected retreat. Instead, the humans struck. Mara used their noise as cover. She emerged from the smoke, slammed a blade into a joint seam, and vanished before the others could turn. She did not linger to finish the kill. She didn't need to. 1 hunter dead, 1 wounded. For angry. Anger made them predictable. They tightened formation, increased aggression, cut off avenues of escape. Mara let them. She retreated toward the river gorge, limping more obviously now. She wanted them to see weakness, to smell it. The lead hunter advanced, triumphant. She breaks, he transmitted. She didn't. At the gorge, Mara leapt, not across, but down, grabbing a vine, vanishing into mist. The hunters followed without hesitation. That was their final error. The gorge funneled them. Narrowed angles, turned strength into liability. Mara had rigged the walls hours earlier, wedging explosive seed pods into cracks, tying them together with fibrous vine. She triggered them with a thrown stone. The explosion wasn't large. It didn't need to be. The rock slide did the rest. 2 hunters were crushed. 1 fell into the river, armor dragging him under. The remaining 2 fired blindly into fog, panic fracturing their discipline. Mara emerged behind one of them, breath ragged, blood soaking her side. She looked him in the eyes. He hesitated. That hesitation cost him his life. The last hunter ran. He transmitted while fleeing, voice breaking as instinct overrode pride. It's not prey. It's not prey. It's... The transmission ended abruptly. Hours later, Dominion Command received the final data dump from the drone. It showed a single human standing amid the wreckage, leaning on her knife, refusing to fall even when alone. The file was flagged. Too late. Across the stars, Earth received Mara's emergency signal at last. Delayed, distorted, but unmistakable. Human Command reviewed the footage in silence. No cheers, no rage, only understanding. A hunting empire had escalated against one of theirs, and the Alpha had survived. Fleet mobilization began within the hour. Back on Carvel, the Cubs returned to the canopy. They saw the bodies of their elders broken by terrain, patience, and time. They understood what the Dominion did not. The Alpha had not hunted the hunters. She had ended the hunt itself. And now, far beyond the jungle, something far larger was coming. Drawn by blood, bound by loyalty, and carrying the quiet certainty that no mistake went unanswered. The Cubs bowed their heads. The Empire had chosen wrong, and it would not choose again. When Alpha answers, the Dominion had ruled by certainty. Certainty that no species challenged its hunts. Certainty that fear maintained order. Certainty that the galaxy, when faced with teeth and fire, would bend. That certainty shattered the moment human fleets arrived. They did not announce themselves with grand broadcasts or threats. They emerged from jump space at the edges of Dominion territory. Small formations, precise vectors, engines burning steady and cold. No banners, no roaring war cries, just arrival. Dominion commanders scoffed at the numbers. Human ships were compact, unadorned, lacking the spines and mass of traditional war vessels. Scouts, one commander sneered. Send the clans. The clans went. They did not return. Human ships fought like their soldier on Carvel, never rushing, never panicking. They targeted relays, fuel nodes, command vessels. They cut supply lines first, then waited. When the Dominion counterattacked, they found empty space and mines laid days earlier. It was not war, as the Dominion understood it. It was containment. On Carvel, Mara Cade watched the sky change. Trails of light crossed the heavens as human craft passed overhead, distant but unmistakable. She sat against the same tree that had saved her, arm bound, skin pale, eyes steady. A shuttle descended hours later. Medical officers rushed her, but she waved them off long enough to look up at the insignia painted on the hull. Earth. She exhaled, finally, and let herself be carried. Across Dominion space, resistance collapsed, not through annihilation, but inevitability. Worlds found their defenses bypassed, their fleets isolated, their leaders captured alive. Humans did not massacre. They ended capability. The Cubs world watched the fall through intercepted broadcasts. They saw Dominion elders standing silent as human representatives spoke, not in fury, but in fact. You hunted sapience, the human envoy said. You taught your young that dominance was earned through blood. A pause. We are ending that lesson. The Dominion surrendered within a standard week. Not because they were destroyed, but because they understood they could not adapt fast enough to survive humans learning them. Galactic records were rewritten. Humanity was reclassified. No longer diplomatic species. No longer low threat. The new designation carried no insult, no boast, only warning. Alpha tier, survivor species. Engagement conditional. Provocation discouraged. On Carvel, the Cubs gathered at the edge of the jungle as human teams dismantled the proving grounds. Traps were removed. Dens collapsed. The world was no longer a classroom of death. One cub, the smallest, watched Mara being lifted into orbit on a stretcher. It did not fear her. It respected her. Because Alpha was not about ruling others. It was about surviving without needing permission. Weeks later, Mara stood on a balcony overlooking Earth, scars fresh, arms still in a brace. Reporters waited below. Admirals debated strategy behind sealed doors. She ignored them all. Her gaze was on the stars. Humanity had not gone to war because she had bled. They had gone to war because something had tried to make a rule of hunting the weak. That was unacceptable. Somewhere out there, Young predators would grow up hearing a new story, not of a galaxy ruled by claws, but of a species that endured until endurance itself became power. The cubs would remember the scent, the blood that did not mean death. The moment the hunt ended, Mara smiled faintly. The galaxy had learned the truth at last. Earth did not produce prey. It produced alpha.